Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus.
Oh, yeah.
It follows the story of Elizabeth Zott,
Okay.
a brilliant chemist in the 1960s who finds herself
Uh-huh.
as the star of a TV cooking show.
A cooking show.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating premise, right?
It is really interesting how that happens.
It really is. Like, how does a woman so passionate about science
Yeah.
end up in the world of television?
Well, especially in the 60s,
Right.
right? Like, that's not a typical career path.
Not at all. And that's what we're going to explore.
Okay.
Like how she navigates being a woman in a male-dominated field,
Right.
her research into biogenesis,
Wow.
and how she uses her platform to challenge societal norms.
I'm excited to dig into this.
Me too.
So.
So to start, what's really striking about Elizabeth is her unyielding commitment to her principles.
Yeah. She's definitely not afraid to stand out.
Not at all.
Yeah.
She refuses to conform to expectations.
Which is super inspiring.
Right. And we see that in her frustration with the sexism at Hastings Research Institute,
Yes, Hastings.
where she's constantly underestimated.
It's like they don't even see her true potential.
Exactly. And there's this one incident, the infamous beaker incident.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that one.
So Elizabeth is passionate about abiogenesis,
Biogenesis.
the study of how life arose from non-living matter.
Right. Pretty ambitious research area.
It is. And she needs beakers for her experiments.
Of course.
But she faces all these bureaucratic delays.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
And she's denied the supplies she needs.
So what does she do?
Well, Elizabeth, being Elizabeth,
Uh-huh.
decides to take matters into her own hands.
Let me guess she goes rogue.
You could say that she acquires some beakers
Acquires.
from a colleague's lab,
Okay, from who?
Calvin Evans.
Oh, Calvin Evans? Now there's a character.
He is. And this incident really sets the stage for their complex relationship.
Interesting. So tell me about Calvin.
Well, he's brilliant, but a bit socially awkward,
Okay.
and he holds a grudge.
Oh, so not the easiest person to work with.
Not always. But he also has a really well-stocked lab.
Ah, so that's why she targeted him for the beakers.
Exactly. She needed them.
Yeah.
And it's more than just needing beakers.
What do you mean?
It's a statement.
Oh,
It's Elizabeth refusing to be limited by the system.
I see a little act of rebellion.
Exactly. And it has big consequences for Elizabeth.
Like what?
It isolates her further in the lab,
No.
makes her a target of gossip and resentment.
So it kind of backfires.
It does. And her boss, Donati, reassigns her to a less challenging project.
A demotion, basically.
Pretty much. He
Yeah.
wants to sideline her.
Wow. It's like they're trying to keep her down.
It really seems that way. Despite her brilliance.
It's just not fair.
Not at all. But even with all this going on, Elizabeth tries to find some escape.
Where does she go?
She seeks solace in the theater.
The theater.
Yeah, hoping for a break from the realities of work.
I can understand that.
But even there, she faces limitations.
Really? What happens?
She goes to see the Mikado, and it's full of sexist tropes and stereotypes.
Oh, no, seriously.
Yeah, it's a letdown.
So the art she was hoping would offer escape
Uh-huh.
just reflects the same societal constraints?
Exactly.
Yeah.
She leaves at intermission feeling disillusioned.
I bet.
And this is where fate steps in.
What do you mean?
It leads her to cross paths with Calvin again.
Calvin, wait, he's at the theater too.
He is.
Uh,
And you won't believe this.
What?
He's on a disastrous first date.
A disastrous date with Calvin Evans. This, I gotta hear.
Yeah.
Picture this this brilliant chemist
Uh-huh.
struggling through a painfully awkward first date.
Oof. I can imagine.
His date is a secretary from the biology division.
Okay.
And she seems more interested in his perceived wealth
Oh, no, really?
than his scientific achievements.
That's so shallow.
It is. And
Yeah.
the whole thing makes him so uncomfortable
Yeah.
that he gets really nauseous and has to rush out of the theater,
So he's sick and on a bad date?
basically. And guess who's leaving at the same time?
Don't tell me Elizabeth. Elizabeth. They bump into each other in the lobby.
Wow, what a coincidence.
It really is. And it's a turning point in their story.
How so?
Elizabeth, being Elizabeth,
Uh-huh.
ends up helping Calvin get home.
Even after the beaker incident?
Even after all that.
That's surprising.
It is. It's like fate is bringing them together.
I see it. It's a moment of vulnerability.
Exactly. And it opens up a space for a genuine connection.
So this disastrous date,
Yeah,
it sparks something between them.
it does. It lays the groundwork for their unique relationship.
This is getting good. We gotta hear more about this.
We will, but that's for the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, I can't wait. Welcome back to our deep dive into Elizabeth Zott.
Yes, we left off with her and Calvin's unexpected encounter at the operetta.
Right, quite the coincidental meeting.
It was. And there's definitely a connection between them.
Oh, absolutely. But it's not your typical love story.
Not at all. It's much more complex.
Way more. It unfolds against this backdrop of societal expectations.
Right. The 1960s, a time when women were often limited to the domestic sphere.
Exactly. And Elizabeth, with her independence and dedication to science,
Yeah,
she challenges those norms constantly.
she does. So where does Calvin fit into all of this?
Well, that's the interesting part.
No.
He's brilliant, but also kind of oblivious to the challenges Elizabeth faces.
As a woman in science.
Exactly. He doesn't quite get it at first.
But he evolves throughout the story, right?
He does. He becomes more aware of Elizabeth's struggles.
And he becomes an ally to her.
He does. And their relationship, it's not just about romantic love.
It's deeper than that.
Much deeper. It's about intellectual partnership and mutual respect.
They challenge each other.
They do. They have these constant debates about scientific concepts.
They're both so passionate about knowledge.
They are, and their conversations are like this constant back and forth.
I love that imagery. A volley of ideas.
Exactly, pushing each other to think differently.
But this doesn't mean their relationship is easy.
Oh, of course not. They both have strong personalities.
And they're fiercely independent.
Which sometimes leads to friction.
For sure. Especially as they try to figure out their feelings.
Right, navigating love and ambition.
And Elizabeth's very careful about maintaining her professional independence.
She doesn't want to be defined by her relationship with Calvin.
Exactly. She wants to prove herself as a scientist on her own terms.
Which is admirable.
It is. But their feelings for each other are definitely there.
Oh, yeah. The tension is palpable.
So how does that play out?
Well, there are these stolen glances across the lab,
Hmm.
heated debates that turn into heartfelt exchanges,
Okay.
and lots of cafeteria conversations.
Where they try to decipher each other's feelings.
Exactly. It's a slow burn.
It is. But remember, Elizabeth is still facing challenges at Hastings.
Oh, right. The beaker incident made her a target.
And Donati's trying to sideline her.
It's like they're trying to hold her back.
They are. And in a way, her relationship with Calvin becomes a safe haven.
I see that. A source of support.
Exactly. And it's fascinating how their connection evolves.
It is. At first, it's all intellectual sparring, but it gradually deepens into something more.
They find solace in each other.
They do, a shared sense of belonging.
In a world that often feels alienating.
Exactly. And Calvin, he starts to understand Elizabeth's frustration.
He sees how she's undermined and overlooked.
And it makes him want to support her even more.
He becomes her champion.
He does. He tries to level the playing field for her.
Even if it means challenging the status quo.
Exactly. But even with Calvin's support, Elizabeth reaches a breaking point.
She's tired of fighting.
So tired of having her ideas dismissed, of being treated as less than.
I mean, this is where the silkworms come in.
The silkworms. This is one of my favorite parts.
Mine too. So Elizabeth being a chemist,
Right.
she communicates through science.
Okay.
And she tries to express her feelings for Calvin
Oh.
by bringing up an article about silkworm pheromones.
Silkworm pheromones, specifically.
Bombicol.
Bombicol. Wow, that's a bold move.
It is. It's a powerful sex pheromone.
Right. Produced by female silkworms to attract males.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she's using this analogy.
To hint at her own attraction to Calvin?
Yes. But does he get it?
Oh, this is the best part.
Tell me.
He totally misses the subtext.
No.
He's so focused on the science
Oh, of course.
that he doesn't see the romantic implications.
Classic Calvin.
It is. And it leads to this tense moment between them
Where?
in the parking lot.
Oh, no.
Elizabeth feels rejected, misunderstood.
She's ready to give up.
I can't blame her.
But just as she's about to drive away,
What happens?
Calvin has a sudden realization.
He gets it.
He does. He rushes back to her, and
Oh.
they kiss.
Finally.
It's a pivotal moment in their story.
It is. The culmination of all that unspoken tension.
All the stolen glances, the intellectual sparring.
It's like a breakthrough
It is a moment of clarity
where they acknowledge their feelings.
and embrace the possibility of something more.
This is getting really good.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our look at Elizabeth Zott's journey.
And it's been quite a journey.
It really has. Last time we saw her relationship with Calvin blossom.
Right. Things were looking up.
But as we know from the book, their happiness is short-lived.
Sadly, yes. Tragedy strikes.
Calvin dies suddenly.
It's a heartbreaking turn of events.
It is. Elizabeth is left to navigate grief and single parenthood.
In a society that still doesn't fully accept women as equals.
Exactly. It's a lot for her to handle.
It is. But even in the face of this loss,
Yeah.
Elizabeth's resilience shines through.
She's a strong character.
She is. She refuses to be defined by circumstance.
And she has her daughter Madeline to raise.
Madeline, oh, she's a fascinating character.
She is raised by Elizabeth to think independently and challenge conventions.
It's like Elizabeth's spirit is reflected in her daughter.
Yeah, absolutely. Madeline is not your typical child.
Not at all. She's precocious, insightful.
And she becomes Elizabeth's anchor.
Her reason to keep going.
So how does Elizabeth, the scientist, end up as the host of a cooking show?
Right. It seems like a huge leap.
It does. But it all starts with a chance encounter. Walter Pine.
Walter Pine, the TV producer.
The one whose daughter had a run-in with Madeline's lunchbox.
Oh, yeah, that confrontation at the TV studio.
Where Elizabeth defended her daughter's right to eat what she wants.
She stood up for Madeline and challenged those conventional ideas about food.
And Pine, he sees something special in Elizabeth.
He does. He sees her spark, her unique perspective.
And he thinks she could translate that to television.
So he offers her a job?
Well, not right away. Elizabeth is hesitant at first.
Of course. She's a scientist, not an entertainer.
Exactly. But she's also a single mother facing financial challenges.
And maybe she sees an opportunity.
To reach a wider audience.
Yes. To share her passion for science.
And to use her platform to empower others.
And she does it on her own terms.
Always. She transforms supper at 6.
Into something totally different.
It's educational and entertaining.
She brings science into the kitchen.
Explains the chemistry behind cooking.
Encourages viewers to think critically about food.
It's brilliant.
It really is. She takes something ordinary.
And elevates it.
Infuses it with intelligence and humor.
No wonder she becomes a sensation.
Her approach resonates with people.
Especially women.
Right. Here's this brilliant woman challenging stereotypes.
Refusing to play by the rules.
But she's also approachable. Relatable.
She makes science accessible.
And exciting.
Her show becomes a cultural phenomenon.
A source of empowerment.
A celebration of intelligence and individuality.
And it all comes from her refusal to compromise.
Her belief in herself.
Her determination to make a difference.
Elizabeth Zott's journey is inspiring.
It really is. It shows the power of perseverance.
The importance of challenging conventions.
And the unexpected ways we can find fulfillment.
She reminds us that even in the face of adversity,
we have the power to create our own recipes for success and happiness.
Well said. Elizabeth's story stays with you.
It does. It makes you think. It inspires you.
To challenge the status quo.
And embrace your own potential.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into lessons in chemistry.
It's been a pleasure.
If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to our channel and leaving a comment.
We love hearing your thoughts.
And for those who want to support our work,
you can find us on Patreon.
The link is in the description.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.